Sorry. Okay. We're going to start the bottom word, the last word on Samach Beis. Samach Beis says Kufa. Kufa means we're going to go back and discuss something that we said in passing from an Amira. So starts like this. Amar Abami. Abami says, this is the Amira that we're quoting. It says Zivach Bekite Menisach Behelamecha. Someone worships an idol in all of these different ways. He slaughters something in front of it. He burns something in front of it. He does libations. He pours some wine or oil. Behelamechad, and one forgetting. And he only has to bring one sacrifice. Why a sacrifice? Because it was done unintentionally. He forgot that these things were forbidden. Well, we left out one interesting thing. We left out his Hishtachavah. We left out bowing down, which we've had in other when we put other worships together. We had in those amongst those categories we had a Hishtachavah. Here we left it out. The explanation is because if you hold that Hishtachavah bowing down is considered, it divides it. If it's why was Hishtachavah singled out, bowing down? If it was singled out to divide it up, then you should really be chayav on each of these other ones, on every individual one. It must be, that's the reason why it says Hishtachavah is just to give me the lav, to give me the prohibition. So it's not going to be the same punishments, it's not going to be the same carbon as the other ones, right? It must be to diminish the punishment for bowing down. So that's what we're following. Rabami is following that view that says that we combine all the activities, all the worships into one. And then Hishtachavah was to tell me, not that it's divided, but Hishtachavah was to tell me that it gets a lesser punishment. Well, whatever the case is, Amar Abaya explains, my time of the Rabami, what's the reason for Rabami? That there's only one sacrifice for all of these purposes. You shall not serve them. Don't worship them. The pasuk puts all of those services, all of those worships, all into one category, which means it's only one prohibition. And apparently it says more than once. One of them is coming to teach me that it's only one punishment for all of those worships. Does Abaya really hold that there's only one punishment for all of those worships? But Abaya says, it says 3 times, you shall not bow down by Lama. Why does it say that? One of them in the Kedarka. If the way of worshiping is to bow down, so then that's one prohibition. If the way of worshiping is not to bow down, if they have other types of worship, nevertheless, it's still higher for bowing down. And the third one is lachalik, coming to divide it up. To say that if you do one worship, you're going to be chayav one. You do 2 worships, different types, you're going to chayav 2. Then Abaya doesn't agree with Rabami. The Gemara answers, you're right, Abaya doesn't agree with Rabami. So why was he giving a reason for Rabami? He's allowed to explain what Rabami holds, even though he doesn't agree with it. Right? He's allowed to explain someone else's opinion. But Abaya himself actually disagrees with Rabami. He holds that you're chayav for each individual type of worship, and Rabami holds that you only chayav one. Okay, Gufi. Let's go back now and explain another Gufi, right? Going back to explain what we quoted from Abaya. Amar Abaya says, why does it say 3 times that you're not allowed to bow down? It's in the 10 Commandments. You shall not make an image, you shall not bow down to it, you shall not bow down to it. Why does it say 3 times? One of them l'kedarka. And if the way of worshiping is to bow down, so then you're not allowed to bow down. And if you do, it's prohibition. L'kedarka. One of them is to tell us that even if the way of worshiping is not to bow down, so it's some other type of worship. Nevertheless, if you bow down, you still tie it. And one of them is divided up into separate prohibitions. The Gemara asks a question right away. L'kedarka. If that's the way of worship, you have to tell me that you're chayav by bowing down. The pasuk says that you shall not ask, what is the way of worshiping these idols? You shall not do that. which means that if you do worship the idols in the proper way, then we already have a prohibition for that. You don't have to tell me that that not to bow down is coming to teach me when that's the normal way. We have a different verse for that. So Ella achas kedarka v'shlei kedarkas. The Gemara now puts together this. It says rather there's certain types of avodah zaros where you're supposed to give respect to. That's the way of worship is by showing activities of respect. Other types of avodah zaros where you do these other weird things too, which is not a way of respect. You throw a rock at it, or you go to the bathroom in front of it. Well, the first one is that the way of worshiping the idol is not specifically through bowing down, but it is through ways of respect. You bow down to that, that's going to be a prohibition. Achas, the next one is the shalei kedarka, when the way of worshiping this idol is by showing not respect for it, by mistreating it, by going to the bathroom in front of it. That's the way you worship this idol. And if you bow down to it, it's still going to be a prohibition. Yeah, the different types of idols have a different type of kedarka. Shalei kedarka. Because of it's a type of worship. Because even because there's other types of respect that probably won't be prohibition. Achas l'chalek, and then the third one was to divide it up to tell us that if you do many types of worship, you're gonna be a punishment for each and every one. Someone accepts on himself the idol as his God. He says, "This is my God. You are my God, right? Keliyat, you are my God." Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Abua, Amar Rav. Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabbi Barabua. It says in the name of Rav. Now it's important that we remember that it's Rav here that this is coming from. Even Shamar like Keliyata. Once he says, "You are my God," Kayav. That's already enough to incur the big punishments, whatever it is, with warning, without warning, the real punishment, death penalty, kares, not a Gentile, a Jew. Lamai. 1 second. What are we talking about? How are we telling us? Is Rav telling us that there's a death penalty when he says, "You are my God"? He says to an idol. Masnisi. That's our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that there's a death penalty for that. Elul Karban. It must be the Rav is coming to teach me that you have to bring a sacrifice if it was done by mistake, by unintentional. The Gemara asks, even the Rabbanan, according to the Rabbanan, there's going to be a sacrifice. Here, if a person says, all he does is he just says some words. But Tanya, but it was taught in a brisa. You only chayev if you did an actual action. Doing zibuach, like he slaughtered, v'kitar, he brought something fire off, some incense or something. Benisa, or he poured the libations. V'shtachbar, he bowed down, including the shtachbar in an action. It's not so simple. Reish Lakish says, "Man tanish shtachbar." Reish Lakish says, "Who would agree that your shtachbar is considered an action when you don't really do much? Bend your head and bend your body." Rabbi Kiva, that's Rabbi Kiva. Damalai bin and Maisa. Rabbi Kiva holds that you don't need a real action. He's satisfied with the lesser action. Satisfied the prohibition with the lesser action. Michlal. But once you say that this must be Rabbi Akiva, that implies the Rabbanan Sabri bin and Maisa that according to the Rabbanan it won't be considered an action. So we're saying over here that if a person says Keliyata to an idol, "You are my God," so then, according to the Rabbanan, it won't be considered an action. He should not have to bring the sacrifice. The Gemara answers, "Ki kamar Rav, nami lo Rabbi Akiva kamar." What's the big deal? Rav was explaining Rabbi Akiva. Why are you making this a problem? Saying, but it doesn't fit with the Rabbanan. So what? He wasn't explaining the Rabbanan. The Rabbi Akiva Shita. The Gemara says, 1 second. He's explaining Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, you don't have to explain. It's Rabbi Akiva. It's obvious that this is considered enough of an action, if the bowing down or something. I know Megadef. It's no worse than Megadef. Rabbi Akiva holds that there's a sacrifice for Megadef. Megadeth means blasphemy, but that's considered an action. So what's considered non-action is thought. But according to Rabbi Kiva, just words itself was enough to bring a sacrifice. Mao the time, I could have thought that there's a difference between Megadeth, blasphemy, cursing God, and bowing down. I could have thought Rabbi Kiva would only say they have to bring a sacrifice by Megadeth, by blasphemy, because if they curse, because over there it says curse. But over here it doesn't have curse. I would say that there's no sacrifice. I don't know why. I want to take a look in the notes over there. Kamash Malan is coming to teach us this Kushayishka, that it's compared to the cases of action, the ksiv, because it says he bowed down and he sacrificed, and they bowed down and they sacrificed, and they said, "This is your God that brought you out of Egypt," which means that what we're doing now is we're comparing bowing down to the slaughtering, to saying this is your God. So all of those are considered enough of an action, according to Rabbi Akiva. Based on that, this passage. Show me what the current is. Okay. Apparently, we could have thought that this is an exception. Megadeth is an exception because it says karis by the Megadeth. It doesn't say karis by the one who pays lip service to the idols. So I could have thought that only the Megadeth, only the blasphemer, is going to have that. Is going to have the sin offering. Mashmalan, the comparison between the bowing down and the lip service, that there's going to be a sacrifice for doing these types of worships unwittingly, unintentionally. Okay. The other Gemara says, "Amar Rabbi Yochanan." Rabbi Yochanan says, this is a diptych piece. Not for the vav in the word halucha. Helu means they raised you up. Helu means they raised. Helucha means they raised you. You have the subject and the object in one word. Helu, they as the subject. Helucha, they raised you as the object. If not for that vav of Helucha, then it would have just said Helu. Helcha, not Helucha. It would have been Helcha, which means he raised you, not they raised you. Right? It would have been a singular. Helcha or Halcha or Helcha versus Halucha. Halucha makes it into a plural. Not for that vav, the Chayber Rishoyim shall Yisrael Kliya, and the wicked people of the Jews would have been entirely destroyed. Kitanoi. Now, why is this? The reason is because when they said they raised you instead of he raised you, he took you out. When they said this is the God, this is your God, they took you out of Egypt. That they took you out of it. It's actually including Hashem amongst together. So they saved themselves with that extra, with that probably grammar mistake. So no, it wasn't a mistake. That's what they meant. So they would have been entirely destroyed. Rav Shimon ben Yochai says to Acherim maybe Rav Meir. It says, "You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to put Hashem together with something else. get uprooted from the world. Remember, built Hashem Levade. It should be Hashem alone. You don't mix Hashem with something else. What does it mean that they brought you out? In other words, that would be worse if they mixed Hashem together with the idol. So they actually desired multiple gods. They wanted to have more than one God. And that for some reason would be better than that would be better than
never.
Okay. But someone that hugs and someone that kisses, someone that sweeps in front, someone that washes the floor in front of the idols, types of endearment or respect to the idol. Just Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Rav Dimi was a traveler. When he came, Amar Rav Elazar, he said in the name of Rav Elazar, Al Kulam Loike. All of them, all of the things that we mentioned here, all of them would get malchus. There's no death penalty. There would be malchus. They weren't warned for that they're going to get the death penalty. Puts me on noida b'shmai, except for the one that takes a vow in the name of the idol. I'm a kind b'shmai, someone that takes an oath, swears in the name of the idol. The loy lucky, those don't get malchus. Mara asks, why is it? Why don't they get malchus? You're swearing in the name of an idol. The swearing is not an action. Not an action. You only get malchus for something with an action. Mara says, well, you're looking for things that will exempt you from lashes. I have another source for that. And I have another criteria. Haninami, the other types of services, that's called the lav shebachlalos. And Naftali, I think we spoke about this once. Lav shebachlalos is a negative prohibition that has multiple interpretations, and each one of them is also considered part of under that category. We're going to get an example in a moment. We have a rule here that lav shebachlalos, when it says, sometimes the Torah says you should keep all my commandments. What are you talking about? Which commandment? All the commandments. Well, that's called flawless. It gives you a general. Well, it says you should not violate all my commandments. Okay, you don't get an extra set of malchus because of that. Well, you also have certain prohibitions, as we see, that like here, it says you shall not serve them. You shall not worship. And then you have a bunch of different prohibitions that go under that. There shouldn't be malchus. That's a general prohibition. General prohibitions don't get malchus, don't get lashes. You don't have to bring a separate sacrifice because there's a general prohibition. But here we're talking about the malchus. Ain't like an alav shebachos. Tanya was taught in the brisa. Let's say someone slaughtered an animal, but he didn't wait for it to die. Yeah, he just quickly cut a piece off the neck after he chefed it. Cut a piece off the neck and he ate it. How do we know there's a negative prohibition while the animal's alive, but it was slaughtered? You have to wait for it to die. You're allowed to cut it, but you have to wait for it to die. It's not considered a limb off a living animal, but you still have to wait. You can't eat while the blood is there. Don't eat with the blood. Well, there's another pshat. Don't eat a sacrifice before the blood was sprinkled, when it's still in the basin that was used to sprinkle. How do you know that you don't have Suda Savra? There's a special meal that's done for someone that passed away. For the mourners, they have this special meal. How do you know that you don't have that meal? That you don't have that meal if someone was put to death by the court? The same pasuk. Don't eat on the with blood. Don't eat on the blood. It's unclear what it's referring to. It's referring to all of these things. How do you know this Sanhedrin that killed someone that they have to fast that day? They're not allowed to eat. Don't eat on the blood. I know what the punishment for the Ben Seremer, for the wayward son, but where does it say the prohibition for the wayward son? Don't eat on the blood, which means he wasn't allowed to do the eating of the meat and wine.
Are these all examples of the Lav Shabbat?
This is the Lav Shabbat. This is a description of the Lav Shabbat because all of these examples fit. In all of these, there's no malchus. I think the Mefarshim asked that there is malchus by the Ben Seremer. Whatever the case is, this was a nice long question asking why is there going to be malchus when someone sacrifices or burns something for an idol, if that's a lav shebachlolos. It says don't worship it.
With the Ben Seremer, would have said that the reason he never existed, but he would get malchus is not for something he did, but for something he was gonna do. Right? There was a difference.
Yeah, Taisa said that. Wait, Tema have been Seremer like it. Okay. Well, Rabin, this is very common in the Gemara. For the Gemara to say that Rav Dimi came and he taught us something, we had a strong question on it. Rabin came and taught it, and now we understand it. Rabin would say it a little different. Very common. So Rabin was also a student over there by Rabbi Yochanan and by Rabbi Elazar. Yes, Rabin came and he taught the name of Rabbi Elazar. Al Kulan ain't like it. You don't get malchus for all of them. Exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. You only get malchus for the swearing in the name of the idol and for taking the oath in the name of the vow in the name of the idol. Why don't you get malchus for all of the types of worships? Because that's a general prohibition. It says, you should not worship them. And in that, it includes all the different types of worship. That's the general prohibition.
So what do they get punished for?
Not malchus.
What?
Not malchus. Taurus or whatever others. What about swearing in the name or taking a vow in the name? That's just words. And words is not an action. You shouldn't get malchus. Lav shein b'maisa is another rule. Basically, there's two criteria here that we're coming. What type of negative prohibition would incur lashes? First of all, it needs to be direct. Say clearly. It can't be an ambiguous one that has multiple meanings. That's a lav shebachlolos. And also, it has to have something with an action. And here, there's no action. It's words. It says, well, Rabbi Yehuda, that's following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that's not so strict about this. He says, lav shein b'maisa leikin olav. You do get malchus even if it doesn't have an action. Titania. So in a brayso, leisir meno ad baiker. Shall not leave over the meat from the korban Pesach until the morning. The pasuk goes on and says, if you leave over the meat, then you have to burn it. So this is another rule, the third rule, that any negative prohibition that has a way of rectifying the prohibition. By what do you do if? So here, if you left over the meat, what do? You burn it. You weren't allowed to leave it. Don't leave it. But the negative prohibition is don't leave it over until the morning. If you do leave it over, you burn. Why do you have to go through that you burn it? It's coming to give a positive rectification for the negative prohibition. It's coming to tell me that you don't get malchus, different Rabbi Yehuda. Because you don't get malchus, you could rectify it by burning it. But that's not accurate. That's not the reason. And we shouldn't have a lav shein b'maisa. Yaakov says, why do you get malchus on leaving over meat? from the Korban Pesach? Because when you leave it over, you didn't do an action. It's an inaction, inactivity that causes that prohibition. You did it. You didn't eat it. Omission. So, because of an omission. Because of there's no action. Whatever the case is, because Rabbi Yaakov says that, and Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. Rabbi Yehuda says the reason why it says that there's a positive rectification for the negative prohibition, it must be that Rabbi Yehuda holds. Obviously, a lav shein b'maisa, you really should get malchus. Really, you should get malchus on leaving over meat, even though leaving it over is not an action. But the Rabbi Yehuda says the reason why you don't get malchus is because it tells you what to do after you've left it over. That's the reason why, not because it's a lav shein b'maisa. Lav shein b'maisa itself, if there's no action, you still would get malchus. So if a lav shein b'maisa gets malchus, then also there would be malchus for swearing in the name of the idol. Okay. Next Gemara. Let me just see the time. Give me 1 second. Let me push close over here. I just have to do that little thing to do. Okay. Someone that takes a vow in the name of the idol, or he fulfills in the name of the idol, which is referring to an oath, a swear, or oath in the name of the idol. So there's going to be the punishments of what does it say over there? Is that penalty? Negative commandments. Minolan, how do we know? It says Harezi. This is a negative commandment. Where do we know this from? Tanya, starting the Brisa. Don't mention the name of other gods. A person shouldn't tell his friend, wait for me by that church. He's not allowed to say that. He said, where are you? I'm on the corner of church and something else. Not allowed to say that.
I just thought that was from Lo Tifnu
yes, you shouldn't mention it. It should not be made heard by your mouth. You shouldn't take a vow in its name. Like you shouldn't take an oath in its name. You shouldn't cause others to bow in its name. Be or to take an oath in its name. Another shot, you shouldn't be heard by your mouth. This is a warning for the person that goes and influences others to worship idols. Maces, we have a passage for the maces. All of Israel, they should hear and they should see. They shouldn't do it, etc. Rather, it's talking about one that convinces the city to worship idols. Over there, it's a different. You shouldn't cause others to take a vow in his name in time or to take an oath in the name of an idol. This supports Avu the Shmuel stops. I'm Rabu the Shmuel's father said, person should not take a non-Jew as a partner. When you have a partner, you always have to take an oath. Where'd the money go? This, I'm telling you, it wasn't me, it was right. Remember the guy in his deathbed? The guy in his deathbed, he tells his partner, you remember that I wanted to tell you before I go, remember that money that was missing. I want to die clean. I just want to tell you that it was me that took it. And the partner says, who do you think poisoned you?
So this is the concern that the non-Jewish partner is going to take an oath in the name of his Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, so you're going to cause him to take an oath. He's not Jewish. He's going to swear in his God, right? This is a support for Abu Shmuel that says you shouldn't even go into a partnership because that's inevitable. And he's going to end up taking a note. He's going to swear by his idol. He made her. It's not to hear, but made her and caused someone to. When Ula came, Bus the Kal Nevai. He slept in a city called Kal Nevai. Amalei Ravis, we'll see. This is like the city in New Zealand, Chacha. You know that city. Can't say the name. Just say Chacha. The second word is church. The first word is the Yashka word. But that's the name of the city. Yeah. There was a rabbi that moved there, and he told his family that he would move to Chacha. He didn't want to say where it is. Anyway, they were writing him letters that never got to him. And he died. And the post office. Yeah. So he slept in the city Kalnava. Amalei Rabba. Rabba says, "Hey, Chabasmar, where did you have lodging?" Amalei Bekalnava. I slept in that city Kalnava. Amalei Baksiv Shemali Kimachem Leisaskir. Don't mention the name of another god. Amalei Hakem Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon says, "Kalabit Kavim." It's not a problem. If the Torah says the name, I can say the name. Hey, see, but where's it in Torah? It says Kara Baal Keres Nevai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Whatever the case is, it's in the pasuk over there. We'll see. The Gemara is going to elaborate on that pasuk in a minute. Be like Sibalai. But if it doesn't say it, then Nas Masbra Misharshi says Brachas Meruba Kishalei Shikamithia in the Shilai. Change the tefillah, put them harises of them. A discussion over here about a man that has an emission, an abnormal emission. Because if he has 3 of them, it doesn't have to be all in the same day. If he has 3 of them, he becomes a zav. If he has 2, he also becomes a zav, but doesn't bring a carbon. If he has 3, he's a zav with a carbon. Anyway, let's say he has 1 emission that's very long. Over extended period that could have been divided into 3, but it was really 1. Well, how long is that? So it says, well, it was during the time that it would take to go from Migdian to Sheila. Now, Migdian is the name of an idol. So the Bryce over here says, or it's a Mishnah that says, from this idol to Shiloh, that's the amount of time that you could go to the mikveh and dry off twice. So that's considered as a. How did you do that? You just mentioned an idol. Ravina, it's also in the Torah that they arranged to their god Shulchan. They arranged to God the table. Rav Nachman. Nachman says, "Kol Tzinusa Assyria, you're not allowed to make jokes." But Tzinusa is more than jokes. It means you're not allowed to mock. Except for mocking an idol, you're allowed to shayim. The sin, the pasuk says, "Kara." They squat down. Baal, that's the idol. Keres, and they splash. The Nevai splashing. I was talking about that this idol has a loose stomach, and it can't hold its bowels. So Karsu Karu Yachtav Layichlo Malat Masa. They squat and they together, and they're not able to hold the load. It's also written Dibru speak. Lagolis base oven to the calves of base oven, which is like a simple house. The guru Shachin Shemran, the neighbors of Shemran will be afraid. The Avalala Vamai, because the nation is mourning them. The Kamaria Allah Yagilo, and like the priests, they rejoice. Al Kvaida, and its honor, Kikala Mimano, because it was exiled. Al Tikri Kvaida, they don't say it's honor. Kvaida, rather they say it's his burden, means that he couldn't hold its stomach. It just everything came pouring out. Okay, that's like making fun of the idol. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. If it's my dixiv, what's the meaning of the verse? And you continue to sin. And you make a molten image from the silver. It's bunam atzabim. Like the shape of the idol. What do you mean like the shape of an idol? This is coming to tell us. Each one had a small shape of an idol, a little pocket idol. Just as Zeichra, whenever he would remember it, he takes it out from his chest, and he hugs it and he kisses it. It's like those little they have Smurfs. Those, you remember these little guys? In the here David, the city of David, that we did excavations there. They found these little tiny idols, and the tour guide, when I was there, this Israeli soldier, so he told us that they would have these small idols similar to the way you guys have cell phones, just in case. Just in case. So just keep it on them. You never know when you're going to need make an emergency call. You never know you're going to need an emergency.
Sounds like
No, they needed to quit prayer. They were nervous about something.
I forget the name. What was the fiddler and the little sack?
The amulets.
Amulets.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, but there's a whole vikuach.
Yeah.
Whether that was okay or not.
Right.
It was similar to us.
Right. Well, so my Zeifchei Adam Agolim Yishakon. People those that slaughter men, doesn't say will burn books. No, something like that. Those that burn books, those burn men, something. Is there an expression like that?
Right.
All those that burn books will later burn men. You ever heard the expression like that? Hey, it doesn't say that here. Here it says those that slaughter men kiss calves. Calves, like young animals. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi Yitzchak from the house of Rabbi says, what they would do, they had this trick. They would see a wealthy guy. How would they tell if he's wealthy? He came in with a fancy watch. I don't know. And what they would do is they would take the calves, Maribin Esagalim. They would take these calves and they would starve them. And they would make images of these wealthy people. They would put it in the troughs. So in other words, these guys, these wealthy people, have little images from 3D printers in the trough. And they would put it outside. When the wealthy people would come, so the calves would understand that they have their food because they see their food always with them. So they would run over to them, they would like cuddle up to them. Right. This is they salivate. Right. So so look at how much the calves must have been idols. The idols desire you. You should come and slaughter yourself to the idol. Sacrifice yourself to the idol. They really desire you as a sacrifice.
And then they would keep the person's money.
And then they would keep the money. Of course, you have to get the bank account number before you start. Amar Rava says he doesn't like this pshat. He said, this is mean slaughter of people, kiss calves. It should be different. It should be agolim yashkon d'zvayachadam. The calves kiss the slaughter of the people. The calves come up to the people to kiss them in order to get them slaughtered. They're coming to them, and then the people say, see, the idol desires you. Well, that's what it should have said. Rava says, anyone that offers his son as a sacrifice to an idol, they would tell him, you gave a big gift. That was a big present you gave. Come and you can now kiss the idol. That's what they would tell him. Okay, let's leave it over here.
They wouldn't want to do that, so they buy out. They do like what we do in what's it called?